The morning sky was still dark when the alien hunter named Karak stepped onto the open field. His armor was heavy, but he moved easily, like someone who had worn it all his life. The long grass brushed against the metal plates of his boots as he scanned the land with quiet focus. His mission was simple: find humans, study their behavior, and if needed, remove them before they became a threat. For many years, this was his duty, and he never questioned it. Karak belonged to a warrior race that lived far beyond the stars. His people believed humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and more violent than any creature they had ever studied. Stories told that humans could destroy entire armies when cornered. Stories told that humans were clever, emotional, wild. To Karak and the other hunters, Earth was not a world filled with children and families. It was a battlefield. And today he expected another simple hunt. But as he walked deeper into the field, he felt something strange in the air. The wind was too still, and the usual sounds of birds and insects were missing. Even the sunlight seemed thin and cold. His green visor scanned the area again, detecting heat, movement, and life signs. But something was off. He sensed danger, but not the kind he was used to. He moved forward slowly, his metal fingers resting on his plasma spear. Each step made the grass bend under his weight, but he was careful not to make noise. Then he heard it, a soft, trembling sound. Not a growl, not a scream. It was the quiet cry of a child. Karak froze. No human soldiers were nearby. No weapons. No signs of a camp. Only one small heat signature, weak and scared. He followed the sound until he reached a small clearing filled with colorful wildflowers. There, in the middle of the field, he saw a human child, no older than 6. The child sat on the ground, hugging a teddy bear with one arm and wiping tears with the other. Their cheeks were red as if they had been crying for a long time. The hunter tilted his head. He had seen human soldiers, hunters, fighters, and rebels, but never a small child alone in a field. This did not match any mission record. This did not match anything he had been taught. He stepped forward to observe more closely. The grass rustled under his feet, and the child looked up. Their eyes widened at the sight of the tall, metal-armored alien towering above them. The child did not scream. They only stared, confused, shaking, unsure if this strange figure was a monster or something else. Before Karak could take another step, the ground suddenly moved beside the child. A small black and white creature leaped out with surprising speed. It stood between the child and the hunter, its fur raised, teeth bared, ready to fight. A honey badger. Karak blinked. Of all the creatures on Earth, this one surprised him the most. His people had studied honey badgers before. Fearless, stubborn animals that attacked even when outmatched. But he had never seen one defend a human child. The honey badger growled loudly, standing like a tiny warrior guarding a king. It looked ridiculous yet powerful, small but unbreakable. Karak almost laughed, but the creature's courage made him pause. His scanner identified it as a low-threat animal. No danger to someone like him. But the honey badger did not care about scanners. It cared about the child. Karak slowly lowered his weapon. He did not want to hurt the little creature. But he needed to know why a human child was alone in a field guarded by a wild animal. Then he noticed the ground behind the child. It was disturbed, as if something heavy had landed there earlier. A broken drone wing lay half buried in the grass, wires sparking lightly. The child must have survived a crash. Karak stepped forward again, but this time carefully. The honey badger growled louder. The child held its fur tighter and hid behind it as if the small animal could shield them from anything, even an armored hunter from the stars. Karak's heart, something he believed he no longer used, moved a little. He had seen warriors stand bravely before death, but the sight of this small creature refusing to let danger touch the child, it felt different, stronger, pure. The hunter's communicator crackled in his helmet. "Report!" a voice ordered. Karak did not answer. He kept watching the child and the honey badger. The voice repeated, louder this time. "Hunter Karak, what is your status? Have you located any humans?" He muted the channel. The honey badger stomped forward, challenging him. Even Karak, a trained warrior with advanced weapons, felt something strange, respect. How could something so small be so brave? Why would it risk its life for a human child? He slowly lowered himself to one knee, trying to appear less threatening. His armor creaked softly. The child watched him through teary eyes. For a moment, no one moved. The wind grew louder, pushing the tall grass in waves. Karak then extended an empty hand, a gesture of peace. The honey badger narrowed its eyes but did not attack. The child sniffed and took a tiny breath. They stepped a little closer to the creature, trusting it completely. Karak realized something then, something his people never believed. Humans were not alone. Other creatures loved them. Other creatures fought for them. Other creatures protected them without fear. If even a tiny honey badger understood the value of a human life, then maybe everything he had been taught was wrong. The metal hunter, once sure of every mission, every order, now felt doubt for the first time. And as he watched the small creature stand between him and the child, he understood what was happening inside himself. This was not a hunt anymore. This was something else, something he did not have a name for yet. But he would soon. Karak remained kneeling in the field, his armored body still, his hand open in a sign of peace. The honey badger kept its sharp eyes on him, refusing to move even an inch away from the frightened child. The child sniffed again and rubbed their eyes with a tiny fist. They were shaking from fear and cold, and their clothes were dirty from the crash. Karak could see thin scratches on their arms and dust in their hair. They looked helpless, but they were alive. The sun was rising higher now, lighting everything in warm gold. The long grass glowed softly around them. For a moment, the scene felt peaceful, even though danger waited beyond the horizon. Karak slowly lowered his helmet scanner to study the crash site. The drone behind the child was from the hunter ship. It must have malfunctioned, lost control, and fallen from the sky. Perhaps the child had been nearby when it hit the ground. That meant the hunters were close, and they would come searching soon. Karak understood what that meant. They would not spare the child. His people did not care about innocence or age. Humans were classified as unpredictable, dangerous at any age. The hunter squad would collect the child as a target, not as a survivor. Karak felt something tighten inside his chest. His people believed they were always right, always logical, always strong. But what he saw now, a child and a honey badger, did not match their logic at all. The child whispered something so soft, he almost missed it. "Please, don't hurt us." Karak's heart moved again. It was strange hearing a human child speak to him, not with anger or fear, but with hope. He lowered his head slightly, trying to show he meant no harm. He was not trained for this. His missions never taught him how to speak to a scared child, or how to earn the trust of a small animal ready to attack him. The honey badger growled again, warning him to keep his distance. Karak admired its courage. A creature so small was willing to fight a metal giant, for a child that wasn't even its own species. Karak finally understood something important. Humans inspired loyalty. Even animals protected them. This was not weakness. This was power of another kind. He spoke gently, his deep voice softened by the translation system. "I will not harm you." The child looked unsure at first. Maybe they did not trust machines or aliens. Maybe they did not understand the voice coming from inside his helmet. But the honey badger stopped growling for a moment as if listening too. Karak slowly lifted his hand again, showing it was empty. The child stepped out from behind the honey badger just a little. Their small fingers held the teddy bear tightly. Their eyes were soft, but cautious. My name is Leo, the child whispered. A name. Humans always shared names when they hoped someone could help them. Karak understood that from earlier missions. He placed his hand on his chest. I am Karak. Leo blinked, then looked at the honey badger. The creature huffed as if saying, Fine, I'm watching you. But it did not attack. Leo took one hesitant step closer to Karak. Are you a robot? Karak shook his head. I am alive. My armor only protects me. Leo seemed relieved. Robots scared children sometimes. Living beings were easier to understand. Leo pointed at the broken drone behind them. That thing fell from the sky. It scared me. I ran, and I got lost. So the child had been wandering alone for hours. Karak scanned again. No adult humans nearby, no groups, no settlements, only the child, alone in the field. It was wrong. Everything about this situation was wrong. Before he could ask more, his communicator vibrated again. He did not want to answer, but if he ignored it too long, they would track him. The voice came through sharply. Karak, report. We are scanning your location. Large life signatures detected. Are you engaging the targets? Karak looked at Leo. The child looked back, eyes wide. The honey badger stepped in front of Leo again, its small body shaking with its protective rage. Karak muted the communicator quickly. If they knew he was with a child, they would come immediately. He needed to act before his people reached them. Leo hugged the teddy bear closer. Are there more like you coming? Karak nodded slowly. Yes. Leo's lip trembled. Are they bad? Karak wanted to say no. He wanted to say his people were noble, honorable, intelligent. But the truth felt heavy on his tongue. His people would see Leo as a target, a threat, a mission task. They would not care that the child was lost, scared, or innocent. He stood up carefully, his tall figure rising over them again. The honey badger growled, but Karak gently took a step back to show he meant no harm. Leo whispered, Can you help me go home? Home. Such a simple word. But it held more meaning than any order Karak had followed. A home meant safety. A home meant family. A home meant protection. Something humans understood deeply. Something animals understood too. Something the honey badger was proving right now. And something Karak suddenly wanted to understand. He looked at the sky. His people's ship was still far, but it would not stay far for long. Time was running out. Leo was watching him with quiet hope. The honey badger looked ready to fight an entire army. Karak realized he had already made his choice the moment he knelt down. He would not let anyone harm the child. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. I will help you. Leo. Leo's eyes brightened a little, the first spark of hope returning to them. Even the honey badger relaxed its stance, though it kept one eye on Karak. Karak activated a small scan, searching for safe paths, hidden valleys, or any human settlement nearby. His visor displayed several possible routes, but before he could plan further, he saw movement on the distant horizon, shining metal shapes, walking in formation. The hunters were coming. Karak turned to Leo and the honey badger. We must move now. Leo nodded quickly and reached for the honey badger. The small creature allowed itself to be held but kept its sharp eyes alert. Karak stepped forward, placing himself between them and the approaching danger. For the first time in his life, the hunter was not hunting. He was protecting. Karak led Leo and the honey badger through the tall grass, keeping his armored body between them and the distant metal figures marching across the horizon. Each step he took made a soft thud on the ground, but he moved as quietly as possible. The honey badger stayed close to Leo's side, watching everything, ready to fight anything that tried to get near the child. The wind picked up, brushing the long grass against Karak's legs. The sun hid behind thin clouds now, casting a muted light across the land. Leo followed closely, gripping the teddy bear in one hand and touching the honey badger's fur with the other for courage. Karak scanned ahead again. The hunters were spreading out, forming a wide search pattern. They were trained, disciplined, and fast. They would reach this area soon. He guided the child toward a small cluster of rocks shaped like a half circle. Moss covered the surface, and the space behind them created a shadowed hollow. It wasn't a perfect hiding place, but it would give them a moment to think. He motioned for Leo to crouch inside. The child obeyed, pulling the honey badger close. The creature sat with its head up, eyes glowing with sharp focus. Karak stood outside the rocky shelter, watching the sky. The scanning drones had begun to fly lower. Their bright lights blinked as they moved, searching for heat signals. He could disable one if it came too close, but if he attacked a hunter drone, the entire squad would know his position instantly. He needed a better plan. Leo peeked out from behind the rocks. "Are they looking for me?" Karak shook his head. "They are looking for humans. That includes you." Leo swallowed hard. "But why? I didn't do anything." Karak felt something twist inside him. Humans were taught to fear the hunters. Hunters were taught to fear humans. But this child had no weapon, no armor, no anger, only questions, only innocence. He crouched down so his visor was level with Leo's eyes. "It is not your fault. Sometimes people believe things that are not true. Sometimes they fear what they do not understand." Leo listened quietly, hugging the teddy bear tighter. The honey badger climbed onto Leo's lap and stared directly into Karak's visor, as if judging him once again. The small creature didn't trust easily, but Karak could feel that its anger toward him had softened. Maybe not trust yet, but something close. Suddenly, a faint buzzing sound drifted toward them. One of the scanning drones had turned in their direction. Karak moved fast, placing his armored body in front of the rocks. He switched off all heat signatures from his suit to reduce his visibility. The drone flew overhead, slowing as it detected unusual shapes on the ground. Leo pressed himself against the rock wall. The honey badger let out a low growl, but Leo quickly covered its muzzle gently. "Shh! Please don't," the child whispered. The drone circled lower. Its sensor light flashed across Karak's helmet. He held completely still. His breathing slowed. His hands were clenched, ready to attack if the drone found them. The light passed once, twice, a third time. Then it turned away, speeding toward another part of the field. Leo exhaled in relief. "It almost saw us." Karak nodded. "We must move before another comes. Hunters will arrive soon." Leo stood up shakily. "Where do we go?" That was the question Karak had been avoiding. His people had mapped most of this land, and their scanners covered miles. If they stayed in open fields, they would be found. If they ran into forests, they might be trapped. He needed a place the hunters would not expect. Somewhere, their scanners failed. He scanned the ground again and found something useful. An old human water tunnel hidden beneath the land, long abandoned. It extended toward a small forest on the far side of the field. The entrance was narrow, but Leo and the honey badger could fit easily. Karak would have to crawl, but it was possible. He turned to Leo. "There is a tunnel nearby. It leads to a safer place. We must go there." Leo nodded quickly, trusting him now. The honey badger sniffed the air as if sensing danger behind them. Karak began moving again, guiding them toward a patch of wildflowers where the tunnel entrance was hidden. But before they reached it, a sharp, metallic sound cut the air. Karak spun around. One of the hunter soldiers had landed nearby. Its armored boots dug into the earth as it straightened up. Its blue visor glowed, scanning the field. Then another landed, and another. Within moments, 6 armored hunters stood in the grass, forming a half circle. Leo gasped and grabbed the honey badger. Karak stepped forward, placing himself between the child and the hunters. His heart pounded once, hard. His people approached with their weapons raised, their armor shining in the pale sunlight. The lead hunter spoke first. "Karak, why is your beacon silent?" He said nothing. The hunter pointed his weapon at the rocky hollow behind Karak. "We detected movement. Step aside." Karak did not move. The other hunters tightened their grip on their weapons. The lead hunter stepped closer, metal scraping the ground. "Your orders were clear. Humans are to be captured. You found one. Why have you not reported it?" Karak still said nothing. He looked at Leo. The child stared back with terrified eyes. The honey badger's small body shook with anger, ready to jump at the metal warriors. The lead hunter raised his voice. "Karak, stand down. This is not a debate. Your mission is the same as ours." Karak finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "This child is not a threat." The hunters paused, confused. The lead hunter tilted his helmet. "That is not for you to decide. Humans are unpredictable, even the small ones." "This one is not," Karak replied. The lead hunter stepped closer, weapon tightening. "Move, or be removed." Karak slowly lifted his spear. It hummed with bright energy. Leo gasped softly. The honey badger gave a furious growl that echoed across the grass. The hunters stared in shock at Karak. "Karak, you would fight your own kind for a human child?" Karak's answer came without hesitation. "Yes." The wind carried those words across the silent field, and battle was now unavoidable. The field fell silent for a moment after Karak's words. Even the wind seemed to stop as the hunters stared at him in disbelief. They were trained to follow orders without question, and they expected Karak to do the same. No one in their ranks had ever refused a command, and certainly not for a human child. The lead hunter's visor glowed brighter as if trying to read Karak's expression behind the helmet. "Karak," the lead hunter said slowly, "you are malfunctioning. Step aside. Now." Karak did not move. His spear remained steady, glowing with a soft blue light. Behind him, Leo clutched the honey badger tightly. The little creature continued growling, the sound low but fierce, as if ready to take on an entire alien squad on its own. The second hunter stepped forward. "This is your final warning. Do not interfere. The human is classified as a target." Karak took one deep breath. He knew what defiance meant. He knew what betrayal meant among his kind. But he also knew he could not step aside. Not after seeing the courage of the honey badger, not after hearing Leo's small, trembling voice, not after feeling something inside himself he never felt before. A sense of right and wrong that did not come from orders or training. "The child stays with me," he said firmly. The lead hunter raised his weapon. "Then you are no longer one of us." Everything happened at once. The first plasma blast shot toward Karak. He spun his spear, blocking the attack. The energy hit the blade and burst into sparks. Another hunter charged forward, swinging a heavy metal arm. Karak dodged and struck the ground hard with his spear, sending a shockwave through the grass. Two hunters stumbled back. Leo covered his ears and crouched low behind the rocks. The honey badger sprang out, baring its teeth at a hunter who got too close. Its growl was so fierce, so full of protective rage, that the armored alien actually hesitated. Karak fought with precision and skill. His armor was built for war. His body was stronger than a human's, faster, sharper. But he was still outnumbered 6-1. A hunter grabbed his arm, but Karak swung around and slammed his elbow into the soldier's visor, cracking it. Another leaped at him from the right, trying to pin him down. Karak struck the attacker with the end of his spear, sending him crashing into the grass. But for every strike he landed, another hunter closed in. "Karak, stand down!" the leader shouted again. Karak ignored him and attacked with full force. He swung his spear in a wide arc, hitting the ground hard enough to shake dust into the air. The hunters staggered, but they recovered quickly. Their armor gleamed under the pale sun as they formed a tight circle around him. Suddenly, a sharp scream cut through the air. Leo cried out as one of the hunters grabbed him by the arm, lifting him off the ground. The honey badger clawed at the metal leg, biting with all its strength, but the hunter barely flinched. Karak froze. "Release the child!" he roared. The lead hunter pointed his weapon directly at Leo's small chest. "Surrender, Karak, or the human dies!" Leo's legs kicked helplessly in the air. The teddy bear slipped from his hand and fell onto the grass. The honey badger snarled and scratched, refusing to give up. Karak felt something burn inside him, something hotter than anger, stronger than duty. He stepped forward with his spear tightly gripped, but the lead hunter raised his free hand. "One more step and I fire!" Karak's heart pounded. His eyes flicked to the tunnel entrance hidden under the flowers. That tunnel was the only way to escape. But Leo was trapped. He could save the child, or the mission could end here. He lowered his spear slightly, pretending to surrender. The hunters relaxed just enough. That was all he needed. Karak launched forward with sudden speed, faster than the hunters expected. He jumped high, flipping in the air. His spear glowed bright as he brought it down sharply on the arm holding Leo. The metal shattered. Leo fell, hitting the ground, rolling toward the rocks. The honey badger ran after him, standing over him protectively. The hunter who lost his arm screamed as sparks shot out from the broken limb. The lead hunter fired at Karak, but he rolled across the ground and rammed into him, knocking the weapon aside. Chaos exploded across the field. Energy blasts cut through the air. Metal clashed with metal. Karak moved like a storm, striking, blocking, dodging, but the hunters recovered quickly. They were elite soldiers. They surrounded him again. He fought with everything he had, but his armor was starting to crack. His breathing grew heavy. A strong blow hit his back, sending him stumbling. Another hit struck his shoulder, damaging one of his suit's power systems. Warning lights flickered inside his helmet. Leo watched with wide, terrified eyes. "Karak!" the child cried. The honey badger growled loud enough to shake the air. Karak forced himself up, though his legs trembled. He could not fall. He could not let the child be taken. The lead hunter stepped forward, visor cracked but voice steady. "You cannot win against us. Surrender." Karak tightened his grip on the spear. "I am not trying to win." The lead hunter paused. "Then what are you doing?" Karak glanced at Leo. Small, scared, holding on to the honey badger. "I am protecting." With one final burst of strength, he slammed his spear into the ground. Energy erupted outward like a wave, knocking the hunters off balance. It was not enough to defeat them, but it was enough to buy time. "Leo!" Karak shouted. "Run to the tunnel!" Leo grabbed the honey badger and sprinted toward the wildflowers. The little creature ran at his side, still growling at the aliens. Karak forced his broken armor to move and followed them, stumbling but determined. Behind him, the hunters rose to their feet. "Do not let them escape!" the lead hunter ordered. Karak reached the tunnel entrance. Leo climbed inside. The honey badger followed. Karak dropped to the ground and crawled in after them as plasma blasts hit the earth behind him. Dust filled the air. The tunnel swallowed them in darkness, but they were alive. For now. The tunnel was dark and cold, but it was the only place safe from the hunters above. Leo crawled forward, holding the honey badger close to his chest, while Karak followed behind them. His armor scraped against the narrow stone walls, and sparks flickered every few seconds where the metal had cracked during battle. He could hear the hunters outside shouting orders, scanning the area, and trying to find another entrance into the tunnel. They were searching like machines made for war, and that was exactly what they were. Leo whispered to Karak, his voice trembling. "Will they come inside?" Karak lowered his voice. "They will try. But this tunnel is old. Their armor is too big. They cannot move here as easily as we can. Leo nodded and kept crawling. The honey badger looked behind them every few seconds, its little eyes glowing in the dim light. Even in the tight darkness, it stayed ready to protect Leo. Karak admired its strength again. It did not matter how dark or dangerous the world became. The small creature had a heart bigger than any hunter. The tunnel sloped downward, the walls narrowing even more. Drops of water trickled from the ceiling. Leo tried to crawl faster, slipping once, but Karak gently placed a hand behind him to guide him. After many minutes, the tunnel finally widened. The ceiling rose and a faint light appeared ahead. Leo stood up shakily, brushing dust from his hair. "Where does this go?" Karak scanned the walls with his visor. "This tunnel used to carry water from the forest. It leads to an old riverbed." Leo looked hopeful. "So, we can escape." Karak's voice turned serious. "We can escape for now, but the hunters will keep searching. They will not stop until they find you." Leo's shoulders lowered. "But why? I didn't do anything bad." Karak paused. He wanted to explain everything, the fear his people carried, the stories told about humans, the warnings given to every young hunter. But none of it made sense anymore. Not after what he had seen. "You are not the reason," he said softly. "The fear is older than you. It comes from stories that may not be true." Leo hugged the honey badger. They should stop believing those stories. Karak wished it were that simple. They walked deeper into the tunnel until they reached a place where the ceiling had collapsed long ago. Light poured down through a crack, revealing a small path leading upward. Karak signaled for Leo to climb. As they reached the surface, the world around them changed. The field was gone. Instead, tall trees surrounded them. The forest air smelled rich and fresh, and the sound of birds finally returned. Leo looked around in awe. "This place is beautiful." Karak scanned the area. "It will hide us for a while." The honey badger sniffed the ground and trotted ahead, as if guiding them. Leo followed close behind. Karak walked behind both of them. Damaged armor sparking occasionally, but his eyes always watching the trees for danger. They traveled deeper into the woods, stepping over roots and fallen branches. Karak tried to plot a course toward a hidden human settlement he had seen once from a drone map. If he could reach it, Leo would be safe. But the journey was long, and the hunters were never far behind. A sudden rustle in the leaves made Leo jump. "What was that?" Karak raised his spear, though the weapon's power was low. "Stay behind me." But instead of a hunter, a small animal darted across the path, a deer. It paused for a moment, staring at Leo, then ran away. Leo let out a breath of relief. Karak continued forward, but something troubled him. Every few minutes he checked his visor. The map showed faint signals. The hunters were spreading again. Moving toward the woods, they were learning, they were adapting. Karak knew their tactics. They would surround the forest, then move inward in wide circles. If he did not find a way out soon, they would be trapped. Leo tugged on Karak's armor gently. "Karak, are we going to be okay?" Karak looked down at him. The child's small hand was shaking, but even in fear, Leo stood tall. He had courage, just like the honey badger. "I will protect you," Karak said. "That is my promise." Leo nodded, trusting him completely. They reached a ridge overlooking a dry riverbed. Rocks lay scattered across the bottom, and a faint path curved along the edge. Karak examined it. "This way," he said. But before they could descend, a loud sound boomed through the forest, a metallic roar that made birds fly into the sky. It echoed like thunder. Leo grabbed Karak's leg. "They found us!" Karak's visor flashed red. "No, this is something else." A giant shadow moved between the trees. Heavy footsteps shook the ground. Branches snapped as something massive approached. Leo stepped back, terrified. The honey badger hissed. Karak lifted his spear, ready for anything. And then he saw it. A large hunter mech, taller than the trees, armed with cannons and built to crush anything in its way, stepped into the clearing. It scanned the area slowly. Then its glowing eyes locked onto Karak. A deep mechanical voice boomed from its chest. "Karak, you have betrayed the mission. Surrender immediately." Karak stood firm. "I will not surrender." The mech raised its arm. Energy gathered at the end of its cannon. Leo screamed, "Karak!" Karak pushed Leo and the honey badger behind a fallen tree and spread his arms wide, standing like a shield. The mech fired. The blast hit Karak's armor with the force of a meteor. He was thrown backward, crashing into the ground. Sparks flew from his chest plate. His visor glitched. Warning alarms screamed inside his helmet. Leo ran to him, crying, "Karak, get up! Please get up!" Karak tried. His armor was smoking. His spear lay broken beside him. The mech stepped closer, aiming its cannon again. Leo stood in front of Karak, tears streaming down his face. "Don't hurt him!" The honey badger stood beside Leo, baring its teeth at the massive mech, fearless even now. Karak lifted a trembling hand toward Leo. He knew the next blast would kill them all. Unless he did something impossible. His voice weak but steady, he whispered, "Leo, I need you to be brave. This fight is not over." Karak struggled to rise as the giant mech aimed its cannon again. His vision flickered, his armor cracked deeply, and every movement sent pain through his damaged systems. But the sound that hurt him most was Leo's crying voice, as the child stood in front of him, trying to protect him with a tiny body that could barely hold a teddy bear. The honey badger stood beside Leo, fur raised, growling at a machine that could crush mountains. It did not know fear. It only knew loyalty. Even now, facing certain death, the small creature refused to step back. The mech's booming voice shook the forest. "Leo is a human. Humans must be captured. Remove yourselves." Leo's legs trembled, but he shouted back, "You can't take him! He saved me!" The mech paused, confused for a moment. No human child had ever spoken to a hunter machine with such fire. Karak pulled himself forward, inch by inch, until he could place his hand on Leo's shoulder. "Leo, step back. I must finish this." Leo shook his head fiercely. "No, you protected me. I'll protect you too." The honey badger made a sharp, angry noise, as if agreeing with the child. Karak felt something inside him shift. Not a mechanical part, but his heart. He had lived as a weapon, trained to follow orders, never questioning anything. But now, a child and a small animal were standing in front of him, showing more courage than any warrior he had ever known. He forced himself to stand. His armor groaned, but he rose anyway, tall and steady. He stepped ahead of Leo again, though his legs shook. The mech charged its cannon. "Karak," it warned, "your resistance will lead to termination." Karak raised his broken spear, the energy flickering weakly. "I do not fear termination. I fear losing my soul." The mech did not understand. Machines knew orders, not hearts. But before it could fire, something unexpected happened. A blue spark jumped from the cracked core inside Karak's chest, and then his suit's emergency system activated. A surge of energy rushed through his armor, glowing brighter and brighter. His visor cleared, his limbs strengthened. The old warrior training inside him awakened once more. This was not normal power. It was the last energy stored for life-saving situations, energy meant for a hunter's final stand. Karak tightened his grip. "Leo, close your eyes." Leo held the honey badger and obeyed. The mech fired first. A massive blast of white-hot energy shot toward them, but Karak slammed his spear into the ground, releasing every bit of power he had left. A shockwave burst out, bending the blast upward. It tore through the treetops, ripping leaves into the air like a storm. The mech stumbled back, surprised. Karak charged. He moved faster than he ever had before, every step echoing like thunder. The ground cracked beneath him. He leaped upward, landing on the mech's arm. Sparks flew as he climbed toward its chest panel. The mech tried shaking him off, smashing trees as it stumbled. "Karak! Cease attack!" He didn't stop. He tore open a section of its plating, exposing the glowing core inside. His spear was gone, but he still had his hands and his will. With a roar that shook the forest, he pulled the energy core free. The mech froze, its lights flickered, and then the giant machine collapsed, crashing sideways into the earth, sending dust and leaves flying everywhere. Leo peeked through his fingers. "Karak? Did you win?" Karak dropped the mech's core onto the dirt. "I survived," he said softly, "because of you." The honey badger ran to him and sniffed his armor as if checking for wounds. Leo followed right after, hugging Karak's leg. But the forest was still not safe. Karak's visor flashed again. The smaller hunters were closing in. They had heard the mech fall. They knew Karak was resisting. Their orders would now be absolute. Eliminate the traitor. Karak knelt down. "Leo, we must leave. Follow me." They moved quickly through the woods. Karak used the last of his armor's scanning system to find a hidden path. He guided Leo across fallen logs, under thick branches, and through bushes. The honey badger kept close, never leaving Leo's side. Finally, after climbing a steep hill, they reached a ridge. Below them was a small human settlement, quiet, simple, safe. Smoke rose gently from a chimney. Karak scanned it. Life signs showed families, adults, children, humans living in peace. Leo's eyes brightened. "My home is that way." A wave of relief washed over Leo's face. The honey badger made a happy, excited noise. Karak felt something warm in his chest. He had done it. He had brought the child home. But he could not go with Leo. If he approached the settlement, humans would panic. And the hunters would track him there. He would bring danger, not protection. Leo noticed Karak wasn't moving. "You're coming with us, right?" Karak shook his head slowly. "I cannot. My people will come for me. I must lead them away." Leo grabbed his hand tightly. "I don't want you to go." Karak placed a hand gently on the child's head. "You are safe now. That is all that matters." The honey badger rubbed against Karak's leg, as if saying goodbye in its own brave way. Karak stood tall. "Leo, you showed me something today. Humans are not the monsters I was taught to fear. You are kind, you are brave, and your protectors are stronger than any army." Leo wiped his tears. "You're my friend, Karak." The words hit Karak's heart, like nothing he had ever felt. "And you are mine," he replied. He stepped back, turning toward the deep forest. "I will draw the hunters away, and I will not hunt humans ever again." Leo hugged the honey badger and whispered, "Thank you, Karak." The alien hunter gave one last look, a look filled with respect, gratitude, and something close to love. Then he disappeared into the shadows of the trees. Leo watched him go, holding his brave honey badger close, knowing he would never forget the alien who became his protector. And somewhere deep in the forest, Karak made a new promise. He would protect humanity, not hunt it. From that day onward, the hunter's oath had changed forever.